Now that we've got our procedure working, let's go ahead and move on to the next test. And the next test is asking if the pattern specified in this scenario matches the user ID. And remember, we identified some tests for that previously, and here are the 3 things we tested to make sure that it follows the right pattern. So we can use this now to say if any of these are true, we have a problem, right? So if it doesn't start with SU, if it's not 7 digits after, or if it's not numeric, this is a problem. And here now, if any of those are true, we're going to produce another error and stop it. Let's go ahead and make the error very specific though. The user ID does not follow specified pattern. All right, let's see how that works. Let's execute it. Oh, notice what we did here. I used those column names. I brought it from a query directly. What we really want to use is the parameter that's being sent, so we need to use those variable user IDs. Okay, those kind of details we have to watch when we do copy paste. And there it goes. It worked correctly. Let's go ahead and test it. Let's change it so the student U doesn't exist, we hope. But now what we are testing is, if it breaks any of the patterns. So let's say it starts with SI instead of SU. Let's execute that. Oh, and it says it does not follow the specified pattern. How about if it starts with SU, but it doesn't have enough numbers? It doesn't follow the specified pattern. How about if it has some characters in there and it does not follow the specified pattern? So there we go. We've got it handling that second test. What's next? The next is that the user type and department are not allowed combination. So remember that department works with an instructor. So if user type, and this is the user type that they're sending, if user type is like, and in here we're going to put the pattern that it could include any instructor. So if it's an instructor and the department that they're sending, so that's at department, is null, this is a problem, right? So let's go ahead and print an error that said an instructor must have a department. All right, let's execute that and go back and test this. So now we'll get a number here that will work, and we'll say this is an instructor, and the instructor doesn't have a department. All right, so that's the test we want to run and execute it. And sure enough, it tells us that an instructor must have a department. Now let's go ahead and put a department there and see if it passes the test, right? We want to test it when it's wrong and when it's correct. And when it's correct, it works fine. Great. So the other problem with the instructor part is if the user type, this is going to be so much like this, I'm going to copy the whole thing. If the user type is not an instructor, so it's not like that, and department is not null, then the error is user must be an instructor to have a department. Save that. Not save it. We actually need to execute it. All right, that worked, and now let's go test this. Now we have somebody who's not an instructor. So let's say this is a student that has a department. User must be an instructor to have a department. There we go. And we undo it and make sure we don't get it when they are an instructor so that it still passes and it works. All right. The next test is for the combination of user type and major. So this has to do with students, and we're going to have two of these as well, one when they match and one when they don't. Now if I'm going to use copy paste, that's great. I just need to be careful that I get it right everywhere. So the student, if it's a student and major is null, then it's a problem, and we say student must have a major. And if the user is not a student and major is not null, then the user must be a student to have a major. So execute that, see if we got it syntactically correct. Let's go ahead and try it here. Here's a non-student. So that's an instructor, but they have a major. Let's see if that catches that one. Sure enough, a student must have a major. No, user must be a student to have a major, and that's correct. So now if we add the student combination, we say, okay, now they are a student. And let's see if it runs. Oh, and it says that's fine. If they're a student, they have a major, is fine. Now, if they're a student and they don't have a major is the other test. So there's a student that doesn't have a major, and we get the error that student must have a major. And there, we've added all of those tests to our procedure.